Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecini. We're presented by CLNS Media. Today on the show, we got Dave Dufour, good friend of the program, coming on. We're going to talk about the Washington Wizards finally maybe deciding to blow this disaster up. They're listening to trade offers, according to Adrian Wojnarowski. They're actually willing to hear things about John Wall and Bradley Beal. We're going to talk about the Sacramento Kings, according to Chris Haynes, deciding to, for whatever reason, potentially move on from Dave Joerger because he won't play Marvin Bagley more than 20 minutes a night. Good Lord. They finally reached competency and then they decide to do that. We're going to talk about some of the other things that Dave has seen around the NBA over the course of this early portion of the season. How you doing, man? It's been good to get a chance to chat with you recently.
Yeah. I'm happy to be back so soon. Things are crazy. Twitter is abuzz currently with all these Bradley Beal trade ideas, but I'm just going to go ahead and douse those flames with some water. Bradley Beal's not getting traded. It's just not going to happen. The Wizards, that would be potentially the worst move in Wizards history.
So I agree with you.
Think about it. For an organization that's kind of messed up as much as they have.
I 100% agree with you on this. I kind of think he's the most likely to get moved. I think it's the worst idea, but I think that it's the most likely thing to happen. I'll
go ahead and say Otto Porter is getting moved.
Yeah, that's probably true. But let's kind of jump in. Before we do that, I want to give you a chance to say, hey, what's going on in your life right now? Because you have some bigger news since you were last on the podcast.
Oh, yeah. So I joined Count the Dings. I'm now hosting the Nerder She Wrote podcast. And, I'm on all the other podcasts also because that's how it works. But yeah, so now I'm with Count the Dings. It's fun to be on a team.
Teams are the best, man.
It's fun.
Especially that one, because that one is filled with super fun people who just kind of say, hey, we're going to let people do what they want to do creatively. And they know that you have good ideas. So they're just happy to let you roll with it.
Right. And that's been great. And working with Jade and those guys. I mean, Zach Harper's already made me better at podcasting just because he's so good.
Zach really is crazy good.
Yeah, he's great. And, I've picked up a lot from him in this short amount of time that we've been doing it. And, it's awesome. It's a lot of fun. Hosting the Daily Ding a couple of nights a week as well, which is we're doing like nightly recaps. So the next morning you can catch up on the games that you didn't see. Yeah, it's fun, man. It's a lot of fun. Basketball is fun. Basketball
is fun unless you're a Wizards fan. So let's kind of jump into all of this. We're sponsored today by Robinhood, by the way. We'll get to that in the middle of the show. The Wizards have just been an unmitigated disaster in a lot of ways this season. You look at the record, it is actually like a lot better from where it was early in the season because they went on a nice little quick win streak to get up to 5-10. And then last night occurs and things just look like an abject disaster again. Portland ends up dropping like 120 on them. They only lose by 10 to a good team, but there's just no chemistry. There's no cohesiveness to this team. And I think that's the biggest problem. It seems like none of them enjoy playing with each other.
No, they don't. I mean, plain and simple. They've got some severe locker room issues there, and it's translated to on the court. You got to wonder if there are some coaching concerns. I always tiptoe around those issues just because I know so many of the guys and I like them, so you never know if it's player or coach issue sometimes on the court. It seems to be a little bit of both here. And, and it doesn't help that Dwight Howard's got this pain in the ass that's keeping him off the court.
Yeah. So. The fact that Dwight Howard in 2018-19 is a significant part of the reason, him being unable to play for at least effectively for large portions of the season so far, that is crazy. It displays how inadequate this team's roster building has been over the course of this team's core run, because they've just traded away first round picks willy-nilly up until this past season, where they took Troy Brown, who's an interesting guy to take for them because, he's a ball handler. He's big. He at least has a great frame with which you can project defensive capability, at least we'll say. He wasn't like an awesome defender at Oregon. I mean, he's a little bit slow athletically, but he has a great frame and he's switchable and you can put him on a wide variety of players, and that tends to help defenses. The fact that they've dealt away so many first round picks, though, it shows in the depth. of this roster. I mean, we're sitting here at a stage where, like, because they overpaid Jan Mahinmi to such a ridiculous extent, they're starting him and playing him like 15 minutes a night in some cases.
That's
like,
the big one too, by the way. That's the big thing that is keeping this team from being good.
The center position or Jan Mahinmi?
I mean, that contract that contract has really hampered their ability to fill out the roster and add depth pieces.
And that was a
100%.
bad deal when it happened. Like that,
right.
That was a deal that made no sense when it happened even. Like, he was playing for the Pacers. He was a fine big guy for the Pacers who was a dirty work guy that helped the team. But because so many teams mismanaged the way that they handed out money and mismanaged the value of players in the salary cap spike era, people thought that like an average starter was worth 17 or so, $18 million, or like a starter was worth that. And that's not actually the way it works, because the max deals are so much more valuable than mid-level players. The fact that those guys get like 30 million and did it that time even makes you have to find value on the market and not just decide, hey, this guy's going to be a starter. We can hand him $16 million a year because, you know, we're close to a title or something like that. You still have to find value in contracts. And there was never a circumstance where that Jan Mahinmi contract was ever going to be a value to the organization.
Right. You know, good teams are built on the margins.
Yep.
Right. So it's all about the superstar contracts and the value deals. That's it. The middle of the road guys like the Garrett Temples, they're good players. Don't get me wrong. But
and by the way, losing Garrett Temple was kind of a big deal for this team.
It was a huge deal. But those are where you maybe Garrett Temple is kind of the margin, but maybe he's a little bit overpaid. But I just think that when you miss on those smaller deals, that's where you really blow things. And this wasn't a small deal. This is a big deal. You know, this is a little bit less than what Biyombo got, and everyone sees that for the terrible contract that it is. It's just.
And Bismack is way better than Jan.
He's more useful, and he actually can stay on the court, which, availability is a skill.
Yeah, no question. So what would be, before we get into like specific like fake trades that make sense and stuff, how would you go about building this team from this stage now? I mean, like, if you're Ted Leonsis, not even Ernie Grunfeld, what do you think is the best course for how to navigate out of these waters?
Well, whatever you do, you don't trade Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal is the best player on that roster. He is, definitely like a top 10 player in the East, potentially top 7. I don't know. I don't have a list, but this is all shooting from the hip. But you don't give up Bradley Beal. He's too good and he's too young. The only way you do that is if you could get some crazy haul that includes like Zion Williamson next year, right? Like, so if you knew you could get a guy like that, okay, great. But if you're not getting that, then no, you don't move him, because Bradley Beal is the kind of guy you tank for.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's the point. Now, the issue is John Wall is older, looking older,
I think that's the key, is that he looks older.
Out of shape. He's got the knee issue. There's some clear effort concerns, and he is about to go into his max contract.
4 years, $170 million for what
exactly,
for the exact number of what that is, and that does not include this season. That starts next season.
That's right. He's only 19 mil for the rest of this year. So the concern here is, can you get off of him before he is a liability, a contract liability? And I think that's the move to make if you can do it. Unfortunately, Otto Porter is probably going to get dealt. He's got he's in. I guess he's got 2 years after this one at $25 million a year.
Yeah.
So, I think Otto Porter is a very good player, and that sort of positional flexibility and shooting that he brings is important, and he's going to be very good for some team, but I don't think it's going to be the Wizards for much longer.
So I think that Porter is like slightly overpaid. He's not a huge overpayment. Like, he's probably a $20 million player making $26 million a year, $27 million a year. Again, though, like $6 to $7 million, that's like 5% of your salary cap next summer. Like that is, again, where we talk about deals being made on the margins that hinder your flexibility. And obviously, Washington was spurred into this by Brooklyn deciding to give him the max offer sheet, which was kind of smart on Brooklyn's part because that's actually a good question looking back on this, do we think that Brooklyn would rather have Otto Porter right now than not have him?
I think they were happy to get him, but very happy to see them match. Yeah. If that makes sense. Like, I actually, weaponizing the salary cap is something I've talked about a lot, and I'm surprised more teams don't do it. If you're going to be bad, might as well, force other teams into signing these longer contracts so that when you're good, you're not facing the competition, right? Like, you can go into free agency and you're going to have your war chest, and they're going to be stuck with these longer deals like Otto Porter. Signing him to that 4-year deal, $25 million a year. Bobby Marks just sent out a tweet. Where is it? I had it pulled up. Basically, they have $117 million committed next year.
The Wizards, you mean?
Right, yes. But they have 10 free agents.
Yeah.
How ridiculous is that?
It's crazy. They've totally mismanaged everything with this roster.
So they're toast.
So if I was Ted Leonsis, here is what I would do. I would fire Ernie Grunfeld. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I would not entrust Ernie Grunfeld with making these long-term waterfall decisions that are going to affect the next 10 years of the Wizards. We have seen nothing from him that makes me think it is something that can be overcome by Ernie Grunfeld. Number 2, I agree with you that I would build around Bradley Beal. I would move John Wall and Otto Porter now. My theory on this, on whether or not John Wall is movable, I personally, if I was another general manager, would not take John Wall's contract for just about anything. My guess is that there are other general managers out there that are willing to, because we see it every year. There are just generally irrational actors in this marketplace. Now, the problem is that one of these irrational actors typically is Washington, and they're the team making the trade. So it reduces the irrational actor marketplace by 1. But I think that what you're seeing here around the NBA generally, we talk about these untradeable contracts, quote unquote, every single year. And I don't think John Wall is untradeable. We just have seen it too often where, you can get off of these deals, even if it's you throw something on top of it to get off of John Wall. I kind of think Miami would probably be interested in taking John Wall. The deal that I've thrown out there occasionally is Charlotte. I think that Michael Jordan should sell out to keep Kemba Walker no matter what, because Kemba Walker is one of the 5 best players in the Eastern Conference right now, if not maybe the 4th best behind Kawhi, Joel Embiid, and Giannis Antetokounmpo. I would sell out to keep that guy regardless of what I can do. But at the end of the day, he's a free agent. So it seems like a very Mitch Kupchak-y move to me to try and bring John Wall home to North Carolina and trade Kemba Walker to get starting point guard certainty over the next 5 years if you think that Charlotte is going to start to fall out of the playoff picture.
I just cannot see Charlotte moving the franchise's best player, in history, potentially.
I would not do this. Let me be clear.
Right. Okay.
I think it's a bad idea.
Imagine. But you are right. That would be very Kupchakian. Is that Kupchakian?
Kupchakian? Kupchaki?
Yeah, something.
Whatever we want to call it. But yeah, I look at that and I'm okay, that's a deal where you could see an irrational actor stepping up. Miami, right. I don't even know that Miami would be totally irrational because they have such a history of getting guys into shape and buying in and making it work. I could see why they could sell themselves on their culture being the right fit for John Wall. But they're look at the Timberwolves. Could the Timberwolves and Tom Thibodeau and Glenn Taylor decide, hey, we want another star next to Karl Towns for the next 5 years. We want to try and start selling him on staying with the organization. Could we do Andrew Wiggins and Jeff Teague or something?
Yeah. See, now I actually was looking at Minnesota as a potential option. And then it firmly plants Derrick Rose in that six man role. You've got the Kentucky connection between Wall and Karl Anthony Towns. There's definitely some stuff there. But I don't know. I don't know, man. It would be a weird move. Let's just put it that way. And now if I'm Washington, I'd do that move in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Whatever. Yeah. Teague next to Beal would be nice. Because Teague can actually shoot threes, and you get a little bit more playmaking from Beal, add another shooter. I think that would be a good move for them. And the salaries match up. You could actually just do them straight up. You could do Teague for John Wall straight up. And if Washington offered me that deal, I'd take it.
If you were Minnesota, you would do it?
I would offer to drive Teague or fly him in, and I'd pay for all the
That's very interesting.
Because of that contract.
Do you think that contract is valuable to Minnesota?
Oh no. If I'm Washington.
Oh yeah. I agree with you. If I'm Washington, I do that. If I'm Minnesota, I don't know that I want that money tied up like that.
Oh, of course not.
Yeah.
But Minnesota's not using that money in free agency anyway.
Well, do you know what Minnesota becomes if they do that deal?
A taxpayer.
Well, they become the Wizards. Because then you have Andrew Wiggins playing the Otto Porter role, John Wall playing the John Wall role, and Karl Towns and Bradley Beal, not crazy different right now in terms of value. I think Towns is probably slightly better offensively, and Beal might be a little bit better defensively. I'd probably rather have Towns long term, but that's kind of what it is, right?
Yeah.
And you're capped out totally.
Completely. But again, you're not signing any free agents anyway. You just aren't. Probably Minnesota is not signing a free agent.
Probably true. I mean, they got Jeff and they got Taj.
And that was just on the back of Tom Thibodeau. And by the way, Jeff, let's not act like Jeff is a big-time free agent.
No. But he is a starting quality point guard.
And they also paid him $19 million.
Yeah, they overpaid. Yeah.
So,
I mean,
right.
all of this is right. But if you're Minnesota, I would probably not do that. But I can see them selling themselves on it. And that's the point of John Wall and why I would look to keep Bradley Beal, is because there's a market out there for John Wall. It might not be what you want for him necessarily, but I would just move him if it meant the alternative, which is Bradley Beal getting traded. So you're going to plan building around Bradley Beal on December, or you're going to plan to build a deal around Bradley Beal on December 15th. Let's say it's Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Lonzo Ball, and Brandon Ingram for Bradley Beal. I believe that works money-wise.
I think it does. So KCP unlocks a lot for the Lakers.
Right.
But remember, he has to approve a deal.
True.
And I mean, I've been on the timeline this morning, kind of arguing with Lakers people. There's no way I'm trading Bradley Beal for Brandon Ingram and whoever else.
No, I agree with you.
You're insane. Now we can talk about Otto Porter.
But
I don't know that Brandon Ingram's. I don't know if Brandon Ingram. I'm not gonna say I don't think. I don't know if Brandon Ingram is ever going to be as good as Otto Porter is right now. The issue is just Otto's contract.
I think that's right. I think that I agree with you that I'm not 100% convinced Brandon Ingram is going to be better than Otto Porter as a just basketball player. Full stop.
Right.
Now we can talk about contract values and everything, and certainly Brandon Ingram has more contract value and asset value than Otto Porter. But
100%.
In terms of just play on the court, yeah, Otto is better, and Brandon, I don't think we've seen a ton of growth from year 2 to year 3 so far. Part of that just might be role. Part of it might be that he's adjusting to LeBron, but we just haven't seen it yet. So the reason that I say that I trade John Wall for just about literally anything, as long as it gets me off of that money within the next 2 years, let's say by the summer of 2020, is that I'm more comfortable building around Bradley Beal and for instance, just salary filler and a late first round pick than I am John Wall, Brandon Ingram, and Lonzo Ball. I get that those two assets are incredibly valuable, but I don't know what to do with them with John Wall.
Right. Oh, I mean, if the option is those guys with Wall or with Beal, I think Beal is the clear guy because of his ability to shoot.
But the Lakers aren't going to do that. The Lakers aren't going to trade for John Wall, I don't think. I mean, please don't. Please don't.
I mean,
please don't ruin LeBron's prime by doing that.
I mean,
the Otto Porter thing is interesting though, and we should talk about Otto, because I think that despite the fact that he still has 3 years and $26 million a year essentially on that deal, he's going to have value around the league. My favorite landing spot for him is Portland. Portland could put together a package of Maurice Harkless, Myers Leonard, Anthony Simons, and a first-round pick for Otto.
And Anthony Simons is extremely interesting.
Right. So you get an interesting prospect, you get a first-round pick, and you build around Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum in a very competent way. That starting lineup of Damian Lillard, McCollum, Al-Farouq Aminu, Yusuf Nurkic, or Zach Collins, if you want to have Zach Collins as their closing five, which they've been doing a lot of recently.
And Porter.
And Porter, that probably doesn't get you over the hump against the Warriors, but it might get you to the Western Conference Finals.
Absolutely.
That's a real...
That really might.
Yeah, that is a real addition that changes things for them. And while his money doesn't necessarily I believe that his money doesn't necessarily end up at the same time frame of Dame it does. It lines up. His money lines up exactly with Dame and CJ's money expiring. So if it works over the next 3 years, it works, and you have this great core and you build long term. If it doesn't work, then Dame and CJ and Otto, you probably get rid of them in the summer of 2020 when they still have value, and you call it a day. But like the fact that all of their money lines up makes it a lot easier to rebuild on the fly long term too.
Well, and then if you're looking at it from the Wizards' perspective, you get a pick. It's going to be a late first, but you get Simons, who is super intriguing, and then Harkless. That's a really good trade, Sam.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of this deal. Like, I think that it makes a lot of sense for both teams. Like, you get the upside of Anthony Simons. You get Harkless, who's like a useful player. Myers Leonard is who he is at this stage, and I don't know that we need to belabor that. But value if you're Washington, you get a shakeup in the locker room, and if you're Portland, you get a player who can enter your starting lineup and give you a ton of value as a corner 3-point shooter who can space the floor for everything that you do.
Yeah. That's a good deal. That's a really good deal.
That
one's going to be hard to beat.
The other one that is like a little bit interesting to me is you can do, there are kind of a lot of different iterations of how you can do New Orleans, depending on if you're willing to include one of Mirotic or Julius Randle, given that they're both basically on expiring deals. Like, I can't see Julius Randle picking up that option.
No, but he would have to, I believe, because it's a 1 year with an option, he would have to approve a deal.
I believe that's correct. My guess is that to go to Washington, he would approve to go play with John Wall and stuff. But I mean, I'm not going to sit here and know that. But the math there is like Solomon Hill, Wes Johnson, Darius Miller, and one of their minimums, we can say like Frank Jackson, for Otto Porter and Thomas Bryant works, just to like make the roster spaces even, basically. The other one that works, if you're willing to include one of those guys, is basically just Solomon Hill and like Julius Randle for Otto Porter, plus like a first or something.
Yeah, I don't think the Pelicans have the pieces to make it work.
Yeah, I don't like that as much as I like the Portland one. Are there any other like Porter suitors that make a lot of sense to you?
I mean, someone's going to surprise us, right? That's how these trades work. Mm-hmm. It's not often that the obvious deal gets made. I've been trying to think who could surprise us. I could envision the Spurs surprising us and hopping in on the Porter stuff, right?
Yeah.
Again, their cap space doesn't mean as much as some other teams, so that $25 million doesn't matter as much. Could they do something? I mean, Powell isn't expiring. That's 16. What's Rudy making? 11 or something?
Yeah, it's 11. He can be traded on December 15th.
And maybe they take something else back. I don't know, but there's. I feel like the Spurs would be a sneaky Otto Porter.
Rudy would have to, I believe, because he's on a 1 year deal.
Because it's a 1 year. Yeah.
The other one that's interesting for me is Dallas, just like a 1-for-1 with Harrison Barnes. If they just were purely set on shaking up the roster and seeing if this can still work minus Porter, you basically get a year back in salary on Porter. With Harrison Barnes. I don't think Barnes is as good as Porter personally, just because I think it's a lot harder to fit him into what you're trying to do. But they're both like starting quality small forwards. Porter probably slightly above average, in my opinion, in terms of that position league wide. Right. Barnes probably like right around average to slightly below average. So I would get that just in terms of getting the money back, basically.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't think they're going to make that move. But
I don't think so either. But like, so much of this is predicated upon like actors acting rationally or irrationally. The other one is like if Houston wanted to make a shake-up move, even though they've kind of figured some things out and righted the ship recently, you could do, it's like Brandon Knight and where do you get that money from to get up to Otto's deal? That's tough. I don't know if Houston can do it.
I was looking at like, could we get Chris Paul to LA? Could we get the young guys to Washington? Could we get Porter or Beal to Houston? And I don't think the Rockets actually have anything outside of those 4 picks that they were willing to give up. I mean,
we don't think Phoenix gets involved for John Wall, do we?
So a lot of people have thrown them out there as a team that needs a point guard. I can't imagine that they want to have John Wall and Devin Booker fighting for control of the basketball.
Yeah.
Because that's what would happen.
Yeah.
I think that they should just be happy kind of being bad and letting the young guys figure it out.
I think you want an off-ball point guard like a Patrick Beverly next to a Devin Booker, not a John Wall type.
Or like a Jamal Murray.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
like
that's perfect.
The perfect guy next to him. So
yeah. Sneaky one there, I think, is D'Angelo Russell. I'd be really interested to see those two. Those two are friends as well. So
I floated out that Minnesota should really be kicking the tires on getting D'Lo.
Yeah.
I mean, he's best friends with Karl Anthony Towns. He can shoot. He's got good feel. His issues are between his ears and motor.
Yeah.
And maybe Tom Thibodeau could figure it out. I mean, Kenny Atkinson is well known for developing young guys, and it hasn't worked out great there for D'Angelo. So I'm starting to exit the train with D'Lo, but I would kick the tires on that if I were Minnesota.
So if you're Sacramento, could you maybe make a move for Porter?
I mean, you could. I actually said that they should have tried to make a move for Jimmy Butler, but
that's interesting.
Yeah, it would have been pretty interesting. But the problem is,
just trying to make Jimmy fight everyone. Is that your goal?
There's the concern, right? So I think that the biggest problem Jimmy had was that he didn't feel like Wiggins and Towns worked hard enough.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's not the issue with the Kings players. Those young guys are hard workers. They are busting their butt.
Yeah.
Just like going to Philly. I'm not worried about him having locker room issues with the young guys there because they all work hard, and there's just no question. But if you could get a guy like Jimmy in Sacramento, I mean, that'd be huge for that team. He probably makes them the 8th seed. They're good enough with Jimmy Butler that they probably wind up the 8th seed. And then maybe you take a swing at somebody this summer. But I mean, obviously it wasn't going to happen, and it was a pipe dream. It was just me wanting to see what those guys would look like with a guy like Jimmy around them, more than a realistic trade offer. But Porter, I don't know, man. I think that's a lot of money for a guy of his caliber on that team. And, he at that money on a good team is different than him at that money on a bad team.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. Not that Sacramento's signing any free agents anyway, so I guess it doesn't really matter for them either. I've just talked myself into an Otto Porter to Sacramento trade.
Could we just make Detroit like the island of misfit toys and just give them John Wall?
How about John Wall for Reggie Jackson and Stanley Johnson?
Yeah, and I honestly think Detroit would have to throw a pick in that. Just again, that's my guess on it because I don't think Washington would just accept that deal. But God, John Wall, Blake Griffin, and Andre Drummond. Oh my God, what a terrible idea.
Yeah. Or it might be good. Dwayne Casey, man. I mean, that's a culture setter.
Dwayne's really good.
Yeah. So anyway, we could come up with crazy ass trade ideas all day.
Let's. Okay, so your final move here is kind of in agreement with me. You would keep Bradley Beal and you would move the other two if you could.
Absolutely. Now I would keep Otto Porter, but I think he's moving.
Yeah.
Sources say.
#sources say. I agree with you. I would also make the additional move of ending the Ernie Grunfeld tenure because I would not want him making these decisions. Let's move on. Let's talk about the Sacramento King. Oh boy, the Sacramento King. The Kings are finally competent for the first time in a while. It seemed like they are on the road. Dave Joerger, I think, has done a great job with them this year. They look like they have an identity. They want to use their athleticism. They want to beat you down the floor. They want to out-hustle you. They want to outwork you. And it's led by De'Aaron Fox, who's kind of the perfect culture setter for that entire ethos. And then a report comes out this week from Yahoo Sports that the Kings front office is in disagreement with Dave Joerger over the way that they're handling Marvin Bagley and some of the younger guys like Harry Giles and Scalabissiere. And it could lead to Dave Joerger being fired. The implication is sometime soon. Did you also get that implication?
It certainly felt that way.
Yeah.
It sucks. I mean, so I read Amic's piece this morning on The Athletic. Do you have a promo code for signing up to The Athletic?
I think The Athletic Athletic.com/game theory is good.
There you go.
Yeah.
So everyone, if you haven't already subscribed, do it. It is fantastic, and you get great stuff like Sam, both Sams, Vicini and Amick. And so Sam Amick wrote about it this morning. He said he thinks that that Joerger's job is safe. This is from this is sourced information for him.
Sam's very good, and he knows the Kings. He's lived in Sacramento for like 20 years, something like that.
So, he talked about it actually since 1996. I only know that because I read his piece on The Athletic. It seems like Joerger's safe. Here's the thing. I don't think Dave Joerger's a great coach. Okay. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've seen enough of him to know that's just not the case. But at the same time, he's doing a good job, right? And that has to matter. If you want your young guys to learn, I think this is a better way. If you're going to be a bad team, play fun, play competitively, try to win. They don't have a draft pick, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Marvin Bagley's career is not going to be stunted because he's playing 22 minutes a game instead of 30. If anything, he has a chance to learn, and he can go. And, this is a guy who's a super high motor, so he's going to learn how to pick his spots in the smaller amount of minutes that he's playing per night. I get that this is more about a front office struggle than it is front office to coaching staff, plain and simple.
Yeah, like their front office is very weird to me because it mentions, I'm reading the Amick thing now, and
too many Chiefs.
Yeah, it seems like Brandon Williams has a lot of power there. Obviously Vivek has a ton of power and ultimately the final say, and he likes to be involved in decisions. Vlade Divac is the general manager, and he certainly has final say over most of this stuff. But because he doesn't handle the day-to-day stuff, Brandon Williams does, that creates just a natural conflict, I feel like. It's a very strange structure of a front office, it feels like.
Yeah, and it also feels like there's a power struggle. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I mean, KANGZ, that's all you can really say, right? They're just kind of stuck in this perpetual cycle of misery and just dysfunction. And it's a real bummer because they've got some really fun young guys.
That's what I was going to say. And
they're playing fun basketball. They're actually winning games. Just shut up and let them play. Bringing that stuff out in the media is just terrible. If your front office feels like that Bagley should be playing more, then you take Joerger aside and you guys have that conversation. That's it. Plain and simple.
Well, my assumption is that has happened, and it probably has reached a breaking point on that. So they felt like they had to do something, but you still don't do it. While the team is playing well. De'Aaron Fox right now is maybe the breakout star of the NBA season so far. Is that going too far? I kind of don't think it is.
I would say so. I think the thing is, it was Karis LeVert until he got injured, but I will say that I think people didn't know how good he, at least how highly he was regarded by a lot of people, because they only saw him last year. Mm-hmm. And, he did not look great last year. But this is a guy that, Magic Johnson loved him.
Yeah.
And from everything I've heard, was very close to taking him instead of Lonzo. That just doesn't happen for nothing. The kid can play. And, the shooting concerns to me were always a little bit kind of over-reported. The jumper looked great. He just had to figure out how to adjust to the speed. He's so fast, and he has to figure out how to slow down. Mm-hmm. And I think this year you're seeing he can actually change speeds now. Last year it was all 100%, and now he can probe a little bit more. But he's hitting threes in transition, going from full speed to a jump stop and shooting threes. That guy's going to be really good, and he may wind up. We might look at him as the third best player out of that draft.
I think that right now he is the third best player in that draft already. You certainly probably should make the case that he's been better than Donovan Mitchell this year, but Donovan has the track record from last season of being way better. And Jason Tatum, De'Aaron Fox has been better than both those guys this year, almost Absolutely. Unquestionably. Whether or not you believe he's the best guy in the draft, I don't know, but he's certainly in the top three so far. In terms of his jump shot, his problem was that it was always a little bit hitchy and it was always out of rhythm because of the speed that you mentioned. He did a really good job, not this most previous summer, but the summer before, of getting his elbow underneath the basketball better as opposed to having it flare out. That was another issue he had in high school, was his elbow would flare out on jumpers. And the fact that he started to actually make strides toward improving that jumper, it's always going to take a little bit longer, I think, than people recognize for jumpers to be like something that a player is comfortable with. And it seems like this is finally the byproduct of him getting comfortable with his elbow no longer flaring out on his jumper and him getting his left hand directly under the ball on his jumper.
Right. I mean, you kind of nailed that. And then on the other side of the court from him, Buddy Hield has been great. So I don't know, man.
People need to start talking about Buddy Hield. He is
He was good last year.
Yeah.
This is the thing, but
nobody talked about it.
Yeah, and it's because he was old coming in. That's all there is to it. We've got this obsession with youth in the NBA, and so often we're going to overlook a guy being pretty good because he's older. Yeah. It's like, oh, well, what's his ceiling? Well, his ceiling might be what he's doing right now, which is pretty damn good.
Is Buddy better or worse than Karis LeVert?
I'll take Karis LeVert. I think that Karis's defense gives him an edge. Not to mention, man, like his length. Yeah. Even when he's not making plays, he's disrupting plays defensively. Yeah. So, and then Karis, I think, might be a better athlete.
I don't know if he's a better athlete. I think he plays with better tempo.
Maybe. Yeah.
He knows how to change speeds a little bit better than Buddy does. I think Buddy's a better offensive player because of the way that he shoots the ball and the way he moves away from the ball and the fact that he can now put the ball on the deck. The length and the size makes me take Karis, but we talk about Karis as this guy who really broke out in such a significant way last year. I mean, Karis is not much younger than Buddy. I believe that they're within a year of each other, if I remember correctly, in terms of age. If not, like the same age. I'm going to pull that up now. Yeah, they're within a year of each other. And like Buddy is really good offensively. Buddy's awesome offensively. We should talk about that more.
Yeah, he's completely overlooked. But that's going to happen in Sacramento.
Right. So let's talk about the crux of this issue before we move on. The crux of it does seem to be Marvin Bagley. Marvin Bagley was a guy that Kings fans, they hated the pick because they wanted Luka Doncic.
They were right.
They were right, obviously. I said they were right at the time. But I did not like the fact that people disrespected Marvin Bagley in the way that they did. He, for me, was number 3 on my board. I thought it was an unreasonable pick because I thought Luka Doncic was in a tier with DeAndre Jordan, and that was it. Or DeAndre Ayton, that was it. But Marvin Bagley's really good. Like, Marvin Bagley is a guy who is going to play his ass off. He's shooting the ball really well. I thought that was always like the most underrated part of this. Like, he shot 39% from 3 last year and always looked to have a jumper that would translate well with work and repetition in an off season. Everything about him screams that he's going to be a very, very good, at the very least, productive starting quality player in the NBA. And, you know, we've seen that so far. Now, do I think he should be playing more than 22 minutes a night? Honestly, no, because Sacramento's lineups with Nemanja Bjelica have been fucking incredible so far.
He's coming down to earth a little bit, but yes, yeah, they've been great.
But like through the first 12 games of the season, they were like a plus 20 with him in the line, or their net rating differential was like a plus 20 when he was in the lineup. So you had to keep him in. Like you could not take him out of the lineup after that. So I don't know what the front office wanted, I guess. I don't know what they were expecting from that.
Yeah, me either. I mean, I do think that the best thing they could do is, kind of keep what they've been doing. I like let him come along slowly. He's going to be a guy who's going to produce, like you said, high motor. He hits the glass. He's going to shoot. It's just, I don't know. It's impatience. I don't know what they want. Do they want the Donovan Mitchell type of stardom? Is that what they're looking for? I mean, because if you're thinking about it from a business perspective, that does make some sense. Need marketable stars, but I think you've got to.
I was going to say you have De'Aaron, and like
right.
Buddy Hield is like the most personable human being like that you will ever meet in your life. Like, it's so easy to market that guy. It's so easy to market De'Aaron, who's like incredibly nice. And he just sent like, what was it? Something like 50 turkeys to Sacramento's like underprivileged areas for Thanksgiving, and like meals for Thanksgiving and stuff. Like, it's very easy to build around these two young guys from a marketing perspective because they're just great dudes.
Right. And that was the whole point.
Yeah.
Right?
That's like exactly what they wanted.
Right. They wanted to change the culture. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just don't think Jaeger's doing anything wrong right now. I think
it's crazy.
Just leave him alone.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Before we move on, we have to pay some bills here. Robinhood is an investing app that lets you buy and sell stocks, ETFs, options, and cryptos, all commission-free. They strive to make financial services work for everyone, not just the wealthy. It's a non-intimidating way for stock market newcomers to invest for the first time with true confidence. It's simple and intuitive. There's a clear design with data presented in an easy-to-digest way. I can't mention that last aspect of it enough. You just use the search bar at the top. It's such a clean, crisp way to buy and sell stocks, specifically in my case. It is just the simplest way to find what you're looking for within their user experience. The values of the Robinhood app, there's no cost or commission fees. Other brokerages charge up to $10 for every trade, but Robinhood doesn't charge those commission fees. They trade stocks and you keep all of your profits. The design and ease of use, it's easy to understand charts and market data. Place a trade in just under 4 taps on your smartphone. They also have these curated categories that can, if you're searching around for stocks that you may or may not like, you can do it that way in specific fields that you find to be interesting fields. You can also learn by doing. You can learn how to invest as you build your portfolio, discover new stocks, and track your favorite companies with personalized newsfeed. And you get custom notifications for price movements, so you never miss the right moment to invest. Robinhood is giving listeners a free stock like Apple, Ford, or Sprint to help you build your digital portfolio. Sign up at gametheory.robinhood.com. That's gametheory.robinhood.com. GAMETHEORY with no space there. It really is just the best way for you to go about investing online. Dave, what are some of the other things that you're excited about in the NBA right now?
I mean, Jimmy Butler on the Sixers is fun. The Raptors continue to be fun. The Spurs outperforming, the statistics kind of a little bit.
Yeah.
That's been pretty fun. I don't know, man. It's crazy how many fun stories are happening right now. I mean, Orlando's kind of fun. We talked about the Kings. It's a good time to be an NBA fan. I mean, I've just been really enjoying this season. The games have had a lot of tight games. We've had Kemba Walker going for 60 in the same game where Jimmy Butler gets a block and hits a 3 to win the game. Yeah, it's fun. There's a lot of stuff happening.
I had to do power rankings on Saturday for The Athletic. Go read that. Zach Harper writes those every week. So shout out Zach. Shout out Count the Dings, where Dave is a great, great part of now. I got down to so I do them from the bottom up typically. I don't really know why I do it that way. I'm sure that some people go top down, but I tend to do it from the bottom up. And I got to 23 or so and really started to struggle. It got hard, I thought, to decide, okay, is Miami really number 23 or 24? Is that where we're at in the NBA right now? Because Miami is ostensibly not a terrible basketball team. They haven't played well recently. I think they're 3-7 in their last 10. But that's not a terrible basketball team. And the fact that we're at that stage where Miami is that low on such a ranking list kind of says everything about where the NBA is right now in terms of talent level and where it is in terms of, I don't know about necessarily parity. I don't think you can say that just because the Warriors exist and, they're going to win the title. But there is a depth of talent in the NBA right now. And that's what makes it so fun.
Yeah. I keep saying we can add 2 more teams, man. There's no reason. 2 more teams. Let's get a balanced schedule. Let's eliminate conferences. Let's just do it all at once. I mean, Seattle and Vegas, let's do it. I mean, Vegas doesn't have a good TV market, so that's not going to happen. But, we'll figure it out. How about we can do Seattle and TBD, and the TBD team can just play all away games.
So, I'll say this about Vegas. I mean, the Golden Knights, they are a crazy thing there. That
in arena is one thing, but for the NBA, the TV market is what matters, and unfortunately, Vegas just doesn't have one.
Yeah, that's a good point. And plus, the NFL is going to be going there soon too, so it actually is going to be kind of a flush marketplace for sporting events, especially given how many boxing and UFC events go on over there. 2 teams that I want to mention that I've really enjoyed. I've mentioned Charlotte a bunch on this podcast. They're like one of my random favorite teams to watch right now. Largely that has to do with Kemba. Kemba is having a free agency season, like a walk year, for the ages. Like, I can't remember someone raising their play to the extent that Kemba has in a single walk year. Can you remember anything like this?
No, I haven't. I mean, he's like, it's funny. I don't know if I thought about him as like a full max guy before the season. And now it's like, wow, he might be.
Yeah.
Because you think about if he was on a team like Milwaukee or Philadelphia or on the Lakers, we would completely be saying, oh my God, they're going to have to max him this summer. He's too good. And so, yeah, I mean, he's having just an incredible season so far. That 60-point game was just, if he was going to get moved, today would be the day.
Yeah, like if you're Charlotte, I don't know what to do with him if I'm Charlotte, because I probably don't want to give him a 5-year max. Just given the way that smaller guards tend to age, you'd be paying him at 29 years old. That seems dangerous to me. 29, 30, 31, 32, 33 age seasons. That seems like a recipe for disaster. I'd want to mitigate that as much as I could by giving him 4 years. But I would probably give him a 4-year max if I'm Charlotte. Like, I'd have no problem doing that.
Yeah, Charlotte should definitely do it. They should keep him.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, you probably have to. You probably have to
got to get something around him. Kemba needs help. That plain and simple. They've got to do a better job. They've got to get some guys to come to Charlotte and play with Kemba.
Yeah.
They got to figure it out. Michael Jordan is not flexing his Michael Jordan-ness enough in these free agent meetings.
I liked Miles Bridges. I like the Miles Bridges edition. That was a good pick. He's been really good to start the year, I think. I love the way that he utilizes his athleticism on the floor. I think he's going to be like a starting quality player for them. He's going to help them build around Kemba. What have you thought of Malik Monk? I thought he was kind of one of the sneaky guys who closed last season really well after suffering through injuries throughout a large portion of the year. He's kind of been okay to me in a lot of ways so far, and he's really struggling to shoot it, and I kind of assume that's going to bounce back, but like there's something missing there.
Well, as the garbage truck pulls up outside of my house, I was really high on Monk, and then he had the ankle injury. And as people who have listened to me long enough know, I'm very, very skeptical about guys coming back full strength the same season that they suffer an ankle injury. He came back toward the end of the season. He looked good. He started this season. I thought he was really nice coming off the bench. But they've leaned on Tony Parker a lot more than I anticipated, and Tony Parker's been good.
Yeah.
So
that's worth saying. Like, he has been genuinely very good.
If you're trying to win games, that's good. But I would like to see Monk's role expanded a little bit. I want to see him, creating for others more. I want to see what he can do, because if you're gonna move Kemba, which I don't think they're going to, but if they do, then you're gonna want Monk to be the guy who steps into that role. You're not gonna want to start Tony Parker. You're gonna want to start Monk in that point guard role just to see if he can do it. Now, I have belief that he's actually a point guard. I had that thought come when he was coming out of Kentucky.
That's interesting.
Yeah, because I think he's got playmaking that we haven't seen yet. Much like Devin Booker at Kentucky and Karl Anthony Towns, not looking like he could shoot a jump shot because he wasn't allowed to, things like that. I do think that it's so hard to judge these guys, and so you've got to do some digging. But I think Monk's got a little bit of that in him. If nothing else, he could be a Kemba sort of point guard who's going to be a score first guy, and others get theirs based off of the threat of him scoring. But one way or the other, we do need to see more out of Malik Monk, and unfortunately, he's stalled out so far this year. Like, he looked great the first couple weeks, and now he's not looking so great. So he's got to find that shot. Finding a consistent role on this team is going to be important for him. So we'll see what happens. I wouldn't be shocked if he's moved.
Yeah,
for a rotation guy.
If you decide that you're going to max Kemba and you think that Kemba will stay for the max, I would move him.
Try to get another guy.
Yeah.
I mean, the problem is the lack of availability of guys. There's just not many guys out there. That's why we're all foaming at the mouth over the thought that Bradley Beal might get traded.
That's a good question. Like, who is the best player that you could get for Malik Monk? Like, could you go get like a Tobias Harris? Probably not, because they had Jerome Robinson anyway.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, that's tough. Speaking of Tobias Harris, and that's part of the reason I brought this up, segue time. The Los Angeles Clippers, the other team that I wanted to talk about, because the Clippers look really good. They look like an actual basketball team. They've won 6 of 7. Their only losses to a Trailblazers team that is currently sitting first in the Western Conference. They just have a incredible level of competence, I guess is the way to put it, at every single position. They've gotten a small leap from Tobias Harris. He looks very good so far. He's shooting, I believe, like 50, 40, 80 or something, averaging 20 points a game as well. Montrezl Harrell has taken the leap, obviously. I was making a joke on Twitter a couple days ago that Montrezl Harrell might have killed the Warriors dynasty by going off against them for like 30 and frustrating the Warriors because their centers just aren't good enough to guard him basically in pick and roll coverage. The last guy I want to mention is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He looks great. He looks like, to me, I would still take Trae Young over him, but it's close. Like, he's really, really good.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what you expected. I mean, with that kind of length and that kind of, I mean, his personality is perfect for this sort of team. Doc Rivers is coaching his ass off, and Shai's really good. I'm glad that he's come out of the gate the way he has, and I think they were smart. They didn't just throw him out there. I mean, he earned his starting spot.
Yep.
And they've done a really good job. I agree with you. I think Trae Young ultimately winds up a better player. Just the ceiling is so high with Trae Young because of his playmaking. But Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to be a very good starter for a very long time.
Yeah. The guy that I compared him to coming out was DeLon Wright, but better. Like, I thought he was definitely better than what DeLon was. But like, just the way that they can kind of play across the backcourt and make plays and defend using length and switch all across. He gives you a lot of versatility in the players that you play next to him. And I think that's where his biggest value is. You can, obviously he's an incredible playmaker, and you can play him at the point and play like these super big switch heavy lineups with, 1 through 4 being 6'6" to 6'8", and you can just play that way. Or you can play him in super small lineups where you play like a point guard next to him, an off-ball smaller shooting guard next to him, and you can almost play him at like the quote-unquote 3-ish, just based off of height at least, because you can kind of just move it, you can maneuver things around basically.
Yeah. They offer a lot of problems to a lot of they can do so much. And you talked about Tobias Harris earlier. That's a guy that he's going to probably get a max this summer. Isn't that wild to think about?
Yeah, he might. It's possible.
I think he's at least getting $20 million. Now this may be another Otto Porter situation though.
Yeah.
And I think that they might be smart to move him for another younger piece, or if they could get a Bradley Beal.
Yeah. If I was them, I'd be trying to move him at the deadline.
Yeah, but they just have so many lineup options, and it would allow them to make moves like that. They're really deep. It's I don't know. Montrezl Harrell has been, he's been one of the 5 best centers in the league this year.
That is crazy pants. You think he's been top 5?
I feel like he has.
Man, that is you're coming out of the gate. I love it. I love it.
Now, I mean, obviously, you have to look at per 36.
Sure.
But
yeah.
I mean, let's see. I mean, Embiid and Jokic have been better for sure.
I mean, Rudy's been better just because
Rudy's been better.
The defensive impact is real.
Sure.
I mean, you would call Anthony Davis the center based on what he's playing this year, right?
Anthony Davis. Okay. So I
mean, like
Harrell's right behind him.
Towns?
No, I'm saying like impact on the court, right? I don't think Towns has had the impact that Harrell has.
Oh,
I mean that's wild. I'm talking out of my ass right now. Montrezl Harrell's been really good. Let's not say he's been top 5.
I love
that's
it.
Wild.
I'm here for it. Marcus Gasol too. Marcus Gasol has been unbelievable.
Right. But I'm going to pull this up because his per 36 numbers are, I mean, they're ridiculous.
They are. They really are. He has like a 26 PER or something.
22 points per game. This is per 36. 10 rebounds, 2.7 blocks, 1.3 steals. That's
pretty good. That's really good.
Nuts. That's nuts. That's an all-star. I mean, now, obviously, he's not playing, 36 minutes a game. He's only at 24. But, it's a really good season from him.
It's a really good season. He really does deserve a lot of credit. The last guy I want to bring up here is we talked about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Trae Young. I just want to bring up Collin Sexton since Ty Lue got fired. 14 points, 3 rebounds, 2.5 assists on a 54 true shooting percentage. Maybe let's pump the brakes on killing his career. I'm just saying.
Wait, who was that? You cut out.
Collin Sexton.
Oh, yeah. Listen, man. That's classic. I've got to get this take off.
Yeah.
After 10 games. I mean, listen, those veterans that went to the reporters and said their piece about Collin Sexton, they're trying to get out of there.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Let's not go overboard on what Collin is. Collin's going to be fine. He's actually like shooting well from 3 too. He's hit 50% of his threes, and that was the biggest question about his game coming in. He's not taking a lot of them, but he has actually taken a few more of them over the course of those, what was it? I guess like 14 or 4 or 5 games recently than he was over the first 6 games with Ty Lue. Just pump the brakes. Let's let Collin grow. He's actually been, I think, really good for what you would expect from a 19-year-old point guard in the NBA. It's just chill. That's where I'm at.
Well, I mean, what he needs to do is he needs to change his shot profile a little bit. Quit taking so many long twos.
No question. I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. And I think that defensively, he doesn't really know what he's doing yet. He wants to play defense. He wants to work hard, but he has no idea how to fight over a screen right now.
Yeah, I mean, and he's little. That's going to be the one thing. His lack of size is going to be an issue.
Yeah, he's like 6'3", not overly long. I think he has like a 6'6" wingspan.
He's not 6.
You don't think he's 6'3"?
No.
I think he was measured at the combine at like 6'2", 5/8 or something like that. So yeah,
Collin
right.
Sexton?
Yeah.
You sure?
Let me pull up the what is it? Anthropometric?
Sure.
Anthrometric. There's no po. It's anthrometric stats. Collin Sexton was, let's see.
If he's 6'2", I'm 6'1". And I'm not 6'1". I'm 5'10".
He is 6'1.5" with shoes. You're right.
Right. Yeah.
How about that?
So
why the fuck are they listing him at 6'3"?
Well, because they don't care.
Look at that
shit. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that he's like 5'11".
He's
5'11 and a half.
He was measured 6'1.5" without shoes at the combine.
Okay. All right. So maybe I am 5'11". Maybe I'm not 5'10". I don't know.
Yeah, it's possible. I'm here to give you that extra 1.5 inches that you want on your height.
Sure. I'm gonna list myself as 6'5" since it doesn't matter.
What else you got going on in your life, Dave?
Not much. Just hanging, man. Just ready for Thanksgiving, where I'm gonna hang out and go out to dinner. Although it sucks to be the guy who's like kind of forcing people to work on Thanksgiving. But we're going out at night, so hopefully they had a chance to hang out with their family. So
you won't do like you'll go out for dinner with like friends, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
We do the Thanksgiving dinner with like a bunch of friends. We have like 13 people coming over to our apartment.
Friendsgiving, that's what people call it?
Yeah. Friendsgiving is the official term. I'm not a huge fan of it because you're not giving friends. You're giving thanks. Like if we're going to call anything, it should be like drinksgiving with friends because you're giving drinks to your friends at least. Last year was a wild time where like there were like 13 very, very drunk people in my apartment. And one of them decided to tell their girlfriend that they cheated on them. That was great. It was a great time in my life.
What? If that happens, do you have an Instagram? You better go Instagram Live if that happens again this year. Oh my God, that's amazing.
It was wild. It was totally wild. And that was after this person had like a long like political debate with us about how he's persecuted as a white man.
Oh God.
It was the wildest.
That sounds like the worst Thanksgiving in history.
It was a great Thanksgiving. It was fun. We had a great time after that left. But like, yeah, it was crazy. It was funny.
That's nuts.
That's what we've got looking forward over at the Vicini apartment out here in West Hollywood. I guess that's all we got. Dave, tell the people where they can find your podcasts. You're not really writing right now, are you?
No, because people don't want to pay you to write.
Yeah.
And the truth is, man, like, it's a lot of work. And it's not something I'm interested in doing for free anymore. I've done enough that if people are interested in it, I can send it to them. But nope, I'd much rather podcast. Podcasting is more fun. It's more like just shooting the breeze.
It's a free flowing conversation, according to Bill Simmons.
Right. I mean, it's not that I don't put in the work for podcasting, because I definitely do. I do a lot of show prep and things like that, but it's a different type of thing.
Yeah.
And it's fun to talk basketball with people. It's not necessarily a lot of fun to sit and write about basketball. It can be, but the payoff just isn't there. And so I've stopped kind of worrying about it. I mean, eventually the Athletic is going to come to me with the bag, I'm assuming.
I would hope so. I mean, you will have earned it. I will say that. But I will hope that will happen.
I mean, Yahoo's now getting in there. So, but no, I'm not writing anywhere right now. Just Twitter. A lot of tweets. A lot of people mad at me for at least to them, undervaluing the Lakers' young guys in these trades, because they just think that they should be able to trade Brandon Ingram for Bradley Beal.
Man, at some point I'm going to have to do like the Lakers trade podcast, because like we got into it a little bit with the Wizards, and I think that that's like an interesting spot that like kind of lines up in terms of motivations. But we didn't really talk about the fact that, so like you think that Otto Porter should be on the like radar for the Lakers.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if they could put together a deal with Brandon Ingram for Otto Porter, I think the Wizards would at least think about it because of the contract difference. I mean, you'd probably have to. I think you have to get KCP in there, and then maybe another guy. But Otto Porter would do a lot for them on both ends of the ball. He's great at spotting up in the corner, and he's a great defender who can defend 2 through 4. So, I mean, how is that guy not useful? And again,
I definitely think he's useful. Yeah,
like I said to you before the podcast, I don't know if Ingram's ever going to be as good as Otto Porter is right now.
Yeah, that I think is reasonable.
Sitting on Brandon Ingram has made no sense to me. They could have probably traded for Paul George 2 years ago. They probably could have traded him or put him in a deal to get Kawhi last summer. This idea that, I don't know, man, like nothing is guaranteed. Just because a guy seems like he should be an all-time great at some point doesn't mean that always happens.
Yeah.
So... And that's the disconnect I'm having right now with Lakers fans.
The reason that I will say that I agree with Lakers fans on this, that I would not trade Brandon Ingram for Otto Porter or like anything like that, is because whenever it comes time next summer for Anthony Davis to hit the market, because I would venture that's going to happen if he turns down the Supermax, it's going to be hard for other teams to top Brandon Ingram, Kyle Kuzma, and Lonzo Ball. And if you get rid of 1 to 2 of those pieces for a guy like an Otto Porter, who's like just a lesser player, right? Like saying a guy's lesser than Anthony Davis, or saying a guy's lesser than Damian Lillard if Portland flames out early in the playoffs this year again.
Right.
Like those are the pieces you want to keep so that you can trump other offers for like super duper stars.
Yeah, but here's my question. If you're, let's say we're talking Porter or Beal or whatever, and you're the Wizards, if Boston says, hey, how about Jaylen Brown, Terry Rozier, and the Kings pick? The Lakers cannot match that.
Jaylen Brown, Terry Rozier, and the Kings pick.
Right. The Lakers can't match that deal. They just can't. That Kings pick puts them over the top. And so this is the other thing is like people they haven't adjusted their thinking.
It's actually a good question. Does the Kings pick put it over the top? I actually don't know that it does.
I would think it. I think it would. But I'm higher on Brown than I am Ingram. Okay. And yes, I know Brown has been bad this year, but Brown has been better. And then, Terry Rozier is actually a good player.
But would you rather have Terry at twice the price of Lonzo?
See, that's the question, right? Yeah. It comes down to those sorts of arguments. And then I think the Kings pick is more valuable than the Lakers pick.
The Kings pick is probably more valuable than the Lakers pick. But I don't think that value trumps being able to throw in Kuzma or Hart in it being like a very easy slide in, because they both make like peanuts basically.
Yeah, I cannot see the Lakers making a deal and including 3 of those guys. Because
I think if it's Anthony Davis, they're going to, right?
Well, yeah. Now with Anthony Davis, yes.
Yeah.
But I'm just thinking, just from a rotational standpoint, like you're giving up a lot of pieces that you need for a Otto Porter or whatever. Mm-hmm.
And if it's Dame, you do that too. Like you throw
Dame,
in.
you do it. Dame, you do it. AD, you do it. Bradley Beal, you do it.
Yep.
You do it. Bradley Beal's so young, and he's got 2 years on his contract with no option after this.
Yeah, it's true.
A lot of value, which is why people knowing that he could potentially be, attained in a trade doesn't hurt his value. That's another misconception that should be cleared up. Yeah. Just because it's out there that a team is willing to trade a guy, or at least willing to hear offers, doesn't automatically sink his value.
Right, because with Beal, a marketplace will be created. It's not like they're trying to get rid of a guy necessarily. Right. And there's no marketplace value for him. Like John Wall is a different scenario because the marketplace is limited. With Bradley Beal, literally every team in the NBA should call. Like, we didn't even talk about the Pacers. Like, if I'm the Pacers, I am offering expiring money and picks and like Domantas Sabonis. And like, can anyone top Sabonis, like Darren Collison and Thad Young or something for Bradley Beal plus pick, or like picks plus for Bradley Beal?
For good players, no.
Yeah. Like, if you're getting, people can top it, but like, will anyone top it? Basically, you're getting off of the Beal contract entirely, because all of that money is expiring. You're getting a very, very good young player in Sabonis, and you're getting multiple picks.
I don't hate that.
Yeah. Like, if in the Pacers, their problem is that then they would cut into their salary cap. Well, the Pacers are going to have max money anyway, because they're of their money.
Anybody.
Yeah. And they're not signing anybody in all likelihood, but they're probably going to have max money anyway. And they'd probably be pretty happy to build around Victor Oladipo, Bradley Beal, and Miles Turner.
I mean, if Miles Turner can pan out.
Yeah. But like, I think they'd be happy to like take that risk.
Yeah. I'd give it a shot. Yeah. Listen, man, I just believe in Bradley Beal. I think Bradley Beal, I think he's a star. I think he is really good. I think in a lot of ways he's held back by the situation there. So, yeah, I mean, to me, whatever you do to get Bradley Beal, you do it. Yeah,
I'm with you. Dave, this has been a great show. Thanks for coming on. Go subscribe to The Athletic. Subscribe to Count the Dings so you can listen to Nerder She Wrote when Dave is on. You're typically on with Coach Thorpe, correct?
Yeah. It's me and Coach Thorpe on Thursdays, and then I do the Basketball Buds on Tuesdays usually, and that's a bunch of us. That one's much more freewheeling, fun time. But we do talk a lot of basketball. And then we do the fun pod, the mailbag on Fridays, and that's a lot of fun. This week we're going to put out a Thanksgiving edition of the mailbag. I think it's going to come out Thanksgiving morning. Okay. So yeah, there's going to be a dearth of content on Thanksgiving, and we're trying to slide in there somewhere between your first helping and your when you go back for seconds.
Well, yeah, you got to make that. You have to drive on Thanksgiving. Typically, you have to get there. It's a
That's
great
right.
time to listen to the podcast.
That's right.
Go rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast on iTunes. Really helps us move up in the ratings if you leave a rating and a review. We'll be back later this week. I have a podcast coming with Dieter as usual. We're trying to figure out his schedule because he's up somewhere else with family right now. So I'll keep you posted on that. But until next time, we'll talk soon. Bye.